As I'm sure I'll say in other videos, once AC Empires or whatever the next installment's going to be is called is released, the murder mystery side quests of Creed is one of the best ideas they've ever had. They're well written, have actual investigative mechanics in spite of it just being a game of click on all the things until all the things are gone, and are usually a good source of entertainment. Would you believe that Ubisoft released a DLC for Syndicate that was only murder mysteries happening across London, and it's only $5 for 10 murder mystery side quests? I'd be locked onto this like the most paranoid parent's car seat. What makes this even better is that all the murder mysteries are sprawled all over the map with tons of witnesses, evidence, and ridiculous circumstances. Also, it all comes together at the end to an actual conclusion. I'm surprised this pack wasn't sold for $8 to $10. You get so much content, and what an experience! The Dreadful Crimes aren't just a collection of unconnected side quests farted onto the map like the Da Vinci Machines. It's an actual narrative following Harry, a pulp novel / short story writer that writes mostly about real-world crimes, and his apprentice, an 8-year-old somehow not squigged out by studying some of the most gruesome crimes in Britain before the times of Rippy Ripperson, a horrible Jack knockoff in an alternate British history of the 1920s that I made up specifically for this one goof. His apprentice's name is Artie, and he's a lot more helpful in solving cases than you'd believe. But I think he'd be more helpful if he'd just tell me if I looked at every part of the crime scene instead of just telling me to look harder at the evidence we've already looked at. See, in the Dreadful Crimes, one of the drawbacks is that sometimes clear conclusion-changing evidence can only be unlocked after you have a specific conversation or look at a particular piece of evidence like a cigarette butt. If you don't find it, the DLC doesn't tell you that it exists, so you end up losing points based on making conclusions, not with evidence that the crimes don't tell you actually exists. It can be rather unintuitive at times, but overall, they're really solid side quests. I'm not going to go into my usual spoiler territory and show you actual conclusions of the game. I made that a rule in this video because I am going to recommend this product, but I will say that the circumstances of the murders are what makes them good set pieces, beyond the tons of evidence and conversations you have to piece together who did that there murder. There's a locked room murder, a murder on a train, a detective who went missing and had his entire body sold to merchants across town, and then there was one murder that ripped off Who Killed Mr. Burns. So it's a DLC pack of what the hell is going on crime so bizarre and out of the box that it could even rival the mystery investigations from Dickens' Paranormal Club, where one outcome was that an actual ghost did it. Even a couple of the investigations differ their requirements. Like the Mr. Burns murder is less about finding the actual murderer, but more piecing together the victim's timeline to see which method of murder was the one that actually did it. This DLC contains around 2 to 3 hours of additional content that'll take you on an odyssey of London's greatest nut jobs until the ultimate ending where we get to the most dreadful crime. We are going into spoiler territory now, so if you don't want to know who eventually did it all, then put your head under your mattress. The DLC ends with a conspiracy to steal the Cane of Doves from Queen Victoria, conducted by none other than Harry Raymond, the guy we've been providing short story content for this entire DLC. In order to turn this game of unconnected crimes into a conjoined narrative, Harry taunts the Fry twins by taking bits and pieces from all of the dreadful crimes and implemented them in his final crime, where he's off with the cane unless Evie and Jacob stop his beef eater impersonating ass on the top of Birmingham. Just like with the last mission of the main game, Jacob and Evie being twins is what undoes Harry's crime and gets him put in jail. Not really the best ending, but I am impressed that Ubisoft tied together so much from all of the crimes to make sense of how Harry was the ultimate criminal of them all. The story ends with all of the suspects being proven guilty of their crimes, mostly because they all confessed immediately upon accusation, and with the player figuring out that the 8-year-old apprentice they were helping was actually Arthur Conan Doyle, who we helped jumpstart his career in writing. The Dreadful Crimes was a crazy, weird DLC that makes the most out of the fact that murder mystery side quests were not included in the original game, and while I would be the first to point out if I thought they were chopped off to be sold extra, The Dreadful Crimes was originally released in June of 2016, and Syndicate was released in October of 2015. So if they did chop off the Murder Mysteries to be sold as a full DLC, it seems like an oddly long con game to play for a measly $5 purchase price. I like the effort and originality on display here, and if you loved your copy of The Adventures of the Fry Twins, then this comes highly recommended. Sorry I told you that Harry is actually not your friend. At least you'll enjoy getting to finger the guy who did not Mr. Burns.